So, could we make an emulator that uses visual cards to play games? For those of you who missed it, this is a PNG file that represents all the data for Pokemon Red. And people have played the game just by using this image. Of course, to do so, we need to do some of our own programming, but not a whole lot. It's mostly just changing file extensions and a little cleanup here or there. So essentially, we already do have an emulator that can play stuff like this. It just can't do it automatically. You gotta convert it to the ROM file yourself, but it's not all that hard. That's something that could be programmed into an emulator front end pretty easily. The Holy Grail, which should also be relatively simple to do, but more complex, is allowing you to take a photograph of this image, with a phone, and then immediately start playing the game. That's a little bit harder. The phone needs to capture everything in high enough detail, for example, and it needs to know where the data starts and ends, but that's doable. And believe it or not, this isn't the first time we've done something like this. Nintendo did something like this officially. This is the Nintendo e-reader. You would plug it into a Game Boy Advance, and then it would read visual data off of cards. You could scan an entire pack of cards, and it would literally have all the data for a Nintendo game. These cards just had all the code for Excitebike on it. You'd scan them, and then you'd play Excitebike. And for a very brief and wondrous moment, they ended up printing Pokemon cards that you could scan into the e-reader and import into Pokemon games. It was really cool. And the e-reader was just doing the same thing. It was just interpreting visual data as programming data. Sometimes it's a whole game, like Excitebike. Sometimes it's just data to be used in another game, like Pokemon. But I guess the major difference here was you needed to buy the cards. You can, in fact, just print counterfeit e-reader cards and use them if you have one today. And that's probably why Nintendo would be resistant to the idea of scanning an image of Pokemon Red like a QR code. But that's what the homebrew scene is for.